Hello, everybody. I hope we're all having a fantastic week. Some pretty good and exciting action for bulls occurred yesterday after our initial data in the morning and then the interest rate decision in the afternoon. Want to touch on a few things this week. First of all, on the screen displayed right now is a continuous chart of ES. So you can see TradingView has already rolled contracts here. I will not be rolling until next week personally for trading, and I think that will be pretty standard. Really watch your volume between contracts. Do note this gap has occurred with the roll. We'll see if we end up filling this tomorrow or early next week, but understand we do have a value gap here shown. And a lot of times these get filled, sometimes not instantly, but they almost do always get filled. If we scroll way back, we can see here is a roll gap from March, and it ended up getting filled the following week. Now, it does not always occur like this. For example, if we go even farther back here, let's see if I can find one. For example, this gap, still not been filled. Right, so they don't need to be filled, but keep an eye on it. Be aware, sometimes they are filled, and they should be respected and played like a normal gap is. So mark this area. We can see this week that early in the week we were able to balance above our main distribution we were watching last week, and I will zoom in on this and pull it over. So the big thing last week was buyers to regain this node. Right, they were successful in doing that. If we recall last Thursday's video, the main look was this new 50 pivot with our new node formation above. Can this be sustained? Are bids able to find here? You can see for our newsletter subscribers, we were really interested in this 23 to 30 area for bids for our bullish continuation. We had 2-3 tests in this area throughout the week, all saw strong buy side activity to push back up into our upper node, and then yesterday we saw our breakout. Now the rest of the kind of video here, I'm going to go to the M chart just to see today's action, which was a gap on the continuous because of the contract roll, but we're going to go look at last quarter's contract really quick, which will not have as much kind of action on it. It'll be a volume profile. A lot of the lines and boxes are not going to be present here, but I want to look at a couple things. So actually, let's go back really quick. And if we remember these red boxes above, particularly this one at 5400, as well as 5450, was all measured moves, kind of rough targets. We did end up actually pocketing really nice in between our two measured moves, but keep this in the back of your head as we go to the M chart, just so some of my language makes some sense here. So here we go. With today's action on the M chart, we can say we're building out this really strong node. I want to highlight this gap from early morning data yesterday. This low, these lows in here are quite poor on our market profile. Would make sense to fill, as well as this gap being present, even down through like 380. I do expect this to get filled at some point. We know with our roll we have a gap above to fill in the roll gap. This data driven gap makes sense to fill as well and clean up these lows, so keep an eye on that. Very similar to last week where post Wednesday we build a new node structure up above. Your main look for buyers is, can they hold, and on gap fill, are they able to raise this buy side value and bid off a test and get right back over 5400 to 5410. We want to see buyers continue to accept into this node. Retest down even through 70 towards 55 and back towards 50 are acceptable for a continued buy side progression, but if we get all the way down back into our 50-50 pivot, we want to see a really strong bid and strong trend to return to this upper node. These node formations, as we push into new all-time highs, you need to assume that these are sell-sided nodes, that sellers are absorbing here. where they're being more aggressive. Obviously, buyers are willing to push up, but until we break the high, assume this is sell side value in this node, and buyers need to chunk through and really hold a midpoint to show that value switch. So into Friday, into Monday, early next week, what are our main looks? Well, once again, first main look, this gap. Okay, do we end up filling through this gap? Is it defended above on our 10 to 15 edge? Or do we get into the gap? Gap fills, that's honestly good for both sides. Both bears and bulls clean this up. I can have more cleaner auction then. Your next look is back into our node below, with 70 being your most immediate pivot. Below 70, we're looking back towards our 50 to 55. Clean up this Tuesday VPOC, but still hold this upper structure and this auction that we saw late last week into early this week. Outside of this auction, and we just start going back down through our pivots below. Things have not really shifted there. You should be quite familiar with this area. And that's basically it for today, guys. I don't have too much more. I will take a peek here at our daily chart. So this is the M contract again, so we don't show the roll. We talk a lot about using our 20 daily moving average. It's kind of a mean reversion tool, with our 2% extensions off of it being kind of general oscillations. And you can see today we tested back up into our 2%, with 53.35 being our 20 DMA. So if we go over and take a peek at where this is, right in the middle of this node below our most prominent current auction from late last week, early this week. Tests down here are just fine for mean reversions, makes sense with the gap fill. Everything there basically lines up. Not too much to say about that. So yeah, in review, what happens in this node, what happens at the gap fill, and what happens at 50. Those are your three main looks. For looking above, I do want to remind you guys to rely on Russell for your primary structure here. And this will be kind of our closing thing. So we'll take the envelopes off of Russell. We're still hanging out on this 2020 pivot. So I'm going to actually put this to the weekly chart. We're going to zoom out and just remind ourselves that we do have a yearly value shift occurring above here with a strong distribution that we've not been able to accept back into this value. We're building out a node currently here between 2020 and 2095-ish. This 2020 was an important pivot throughout all of 2022 and early and through 2023, which we're now supporting. So we're kind of building out in between these two primary value nodes. Russell up into the highs here and getting up over 2120 and building up is still your main bullish look for the rest of the summer. So rely on these pivots. If ES and Q get that push into new all-time highs, what's happening at 2080 to 2090, 2120, you have kind of like a 30-40 point chunk there with some nice pivots in between. Watch for Russell pressures, sell side pressures. We teach this a lot during our live streams, as well as just intraday through our classes, but using the Russell as an oscillator for, is there buy side pressure here for the broader market, is there sell side, using that to dictate target and rotations, more value rotations versus based on price. That's why we can use it as a pivot. So those are kind of your things to look out for next week. Good move from the bulls here. Really nice hold today for the bulls as well, being able to just do full oscillations of this node. And yeah, I don't have too much else to say upon that. Expect contract rolls next week. Be aware of your couple gaps, and specifically this main value gap on the M contract from Wednesday's data in the morning. Should be filled. When will it be filled? I can't tell you. If I could, I would be on a yacht somewhere, not talking here if I could see the future like that. But be aware of it, market, understand the fill potential, understand holding 70 as your primary retest of our breakout, and watch what happens in this node. That's all I got for you folks. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend, and I will see you guys next week.